Daniel sat alone in his small apartment, staring at the empty chair across from him. For years, that chair had never been empty. His best friend Lena had always been there. They used to sit together late at night, drinking tea, laughing about small things, and sharing dreams about the future. But now Lena was gone, not gone forever, just moved away. She had been chosen to join a cultural exchange program on another planet, working with alien scientists far from Earth. It was the chance of a lifetime for her, and Daniel had been proud of her when she left. But pride could not fill the silence she left behind. The apartment felt colder now. The night seemed longer. Every message she sent came delayed by hours, sometimes even days. Words on a screen were not the same as hearing her laugh in person, not the same as seeing the way her eyes lit up when she talked about something she loved. Daniel missed her more than he expected, and yet he did not know how to tell her that. He turned on his old communicator. There was one unread message waiting. "Daniel, I hope you're doing well. Things here are busy. The Xylar are strange but kind. I'm learning so much, but I miss Earth sometimes. I hope you're taking care of yourself." Her words were simple, caring, but also distant, as if she was trying not to feel too much. Daniel sighed. He wanted to write back. He wanted to tell her how much he missed her, how empty everything felt without her here. But when his fingers hovered over the keyboard, nothing came out. What if he sounded too desperate? What if he made her feel guilty for leaving? What if he pushed her further away? He closed the message without replying. That night, Daniel walked the streets of the city. He looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, Lena was looking at a different sky, one filled with alien constellations. Did she think of him when she looked up? Did she remember the nights they had spent lying on the grass, pointing out shapes in the stars above Earth? Daniel felt small. He felt alone. But as he stood there, he also felt something else stirring inside him. Humanity had always been small compared to the galaxy. Yet humanity had always reached for the stars anyway. They had built ships, crossed distances once thought impossible, and now lived among beings who were once only stories. Maybe he could reach too. Back in his apartment, Daniel sat down again. His communicator blinked faintly. He opened a blank message. This time he did not try to write something clever or perfect. He just wrote what he felt. "Lena, I miss you. Things here are not the same without you. I know you are doing great work and I'm proud of you. But sometimes I feel like you're a million light years away from me, and I don't know how to close that distance. I don't want to lose the connection we have. So even if it feels small, I'll keep writing. Even if the delay is long, I'll keep sending words across the stars. Because that's what humans do. We keep reaching out. We don't give up." He read the words twice, then pressed send before fear could stop him. The message left his screen, carried into the great silence between worlds. Daniel leaned back, his heart heavy but also lighter than before. For the first time in weeks, he felt a spark of hope. He didn't know how she would respond. Maybe she would only send back another short note. Maybe she would say nothing at all. But at least he had tried. At least he had chosen to reach across the distance instead of staying silent. The stars outside his window still felt impossibly far away. But tonight, Daniel reminded himself of something important. Humans were never meant to stay silent in the dark. They were meant to keep speaking, keep hoping, and keep believing that someone, somewhere would hear them, and maybe, just maybe, Lena would hear him too. Lena sat by the tall, glass-like window of her quarters on Xylar Prime. Outside, the alien city glowed with soft blue lights, floating structures, and strange hovering creatures that drifted silently through the night air. It was beautiful. It was everything she had dreamed of when she applied for the exchange program. And yet, as she pressed her forehead against the cool glass, she felt an emptiness inside her chest that beauty could not fix. She thought of Earth. She thought of Daniel. Back home, nights had been filled with his voice. They would talk for hours about nothing and everything. He would make her laugh when she was too serious, and she would remind him to dream bigger when he doubted himself. Together, they made the world feel a little less heavy. But now she was alone. Her communicator buzzed on the table. She walked over slowly, expecting another short update from the science team. But when she saw the sender's name, her breath caught. Daniel. She opened the message. His words were not like the others he had sent before. This time they were raw, honest, heavy with the weight of his heart. Lena, I miss you. Things here are not the same without you. I know you are doing great work and I'm proud of you. But sometimes I feel like you're a million light years away from me, and I don't know how to close that distance. I don't want to lose the connection we have. So even if it feels small, I'll keep writing. Even if the delay is long, I'll keep sending words across the stars. Because that's what humans do. We keep reaching out. We don't give up. Lena sat down slowly. The words blurred as her eyes filled with tears. She hadn't realized how badly she needed to hear that. For weeks she had held herself back. She didn't want to burden him with her homesickness. She didn't want to admit how hard it was to smile in front of her alien colleagues while her heart ached for familiar things. The smell of Earth's rain, the sound of human music in the street, the warmth of Daniel's laughter. She thought she was protecting him by keeping her messages light, distant. But now she realized she had only built a wall between them. She pressed her hands together, trying to steady herself. How could she answer him? How could she explain that she missed him too? More than she had words for. What if saying that only made the distance harder? Lena turned back to the window. The alien stars stretched endlessly across the sky. She remembered something Daniel once told her on a night when both of them felt lost. Humans don't stop reaching. Even if the stars don't answer, we keep calling out. Because one day someone will hear us. That memory made her smile through her tears. Daniel was still the same. He hadn't changed. He was still reaching, still calling out even across the galaxy, and if he was brave enough to do that, then she could be brave enough to answer. She picked up the communicator and opened a new message. At first her hands shook. The words refused to come. But then she closed her eyes and let her heart speak. Daniel, I read your message and it made me cry. I tried to stay strong, tried not to make you worry, but the truth is I miss you too. I miss our nights on Earth. I miss your laughter. I miss the way you make the world feel lighter. This place is incredible, but sometimes I feel like I don't belong, like I am floating in someone else's dream. But then I think of you and I remember why I am here. I am here to learn, to grow, and to show the galaxy who we are as humans. And I carry you with me in that. So please keep writing. Your words make the distance smaller. And I promise I will keep writing too. She paused, her heart pounding, then hit send. When the message left, Lena leaned back, her eyes closed. She still felt the distance. She still felt the ache. But now she also felt something stronger. Connection. Maybe the galaxy was vast. Maybe alien worlds were strange and cold. But she was human. And humans never let silence win. Across the stars, she had reached back. And she believed. No, she knew. That Daniel would hear her. Daniel was dozing lightly on his couch when the communicator beeped. His eyes snapped open. For a moment, he thought it was just another system update or some newsfeed alert. But then he saw the sender's name, Lena. His chest tightened. He sat up quickly, fumbling with the device until her message filled the screen. Daniel, I read your message and it made me cry. As he read, his eyes blurred. He blinked hard, letting her words sink in. She missed him too. She wasn't as distant as her old messages had seemed. She had been protecting him, hiding her own homesickness while he thought she was moving on without him. A laugh broke from his throat, half relief and half disbelief. Lena, you stubborn idiot, he whispered softly. You miss me as much as I miss you. The relief didn't erase the ache, though. If anything, it made it stronger. Now he knew she felt the same, but she was still light years away. He wanted to hear her voice, not just read her words. He wanted to see her face, not just imagine it. Daniel paced the room, the communicator still glowing in his hand. There has to be a better way, he muttered. There has to be something more than just sending words into the void. He thought about the distance between them. Light years of silence. Messages that took days to arrive. No easy calls, no shared cups of tea, no laughing until dawn. Just long pauses and aching hearts, but humans had always hated silence. Humans had always hated distance. That was why they built radios, then satellites, then ships that could cross the void. Humanity's story was the story of bridges. Bridges over rivers, bridges over oceans, bridges between stars. Daniel clenched his fists. He wasn't an engineer or a scientist. He couldn't build a faster ship or a new communicator. But maybe he didn't need to. Maybe the bridge they needed right now wasn't made of machines. Maybe it was made of words. He sat down at his desk, opened a blank message, and let his hands move. Lena, thank you for telling me the truth. I don't feel so alone now. I know we're both hurting, but somehow that makes me stronger, because at least we're hurting together. You're out there showing the galaxy who we are, and I'm here reminding myself what that means. Humans don't give up. Not on our dreams, not on each other. The stars may be wide, but they can't silence us. I'll keep writing to you not just updates, but stories. Stories of Earth, stories of us, stories of everything we've shared so you never forget where you belong. And maybe when you read them, you'll feel a little closer. And maybe when I write them, I will too. He hesitated, then added one more line. I don't know how to close the distance, but I know we'll find a way, because that's what humans do. When he pressed send, Daniel leaned back with a shaky sigh. He didn't feel fixed. The distance still hurt, but he didn't feel powerless anymore either. The next days passed slowly. He went to work, cooked simple meals, and tried to sleep. But at night he found himself writing. Not just short notes, but long messages filled with stories. How the city looked after a storm. How the neighbor's cat had started waiting by his door. How the street musicians still played the same songs she loved. It wasn't the same as having her here, but each message felt like a candle in the dark, burning away the silence bit by bit. One evening, as he sent another story, Daniel looked up at the stars again. He imagined Lena standing on her alien world, maybe staring at a different sky, maybe holding her communicator, maybe smiling at his words. The thought made him stronger. Yes, the galaxy was vast. Yes, the distance was cruel. But humanity had never been afraid of vastness or cruelty. Humanity's gift was hope, the kind that burned even when the night was endless. Daniel placed his hand against the window, palm open to the stars. We'll find a way, Lena, he whispered. Because humans always do. And in that moment, even though he was alone in his apartment, he felt just a little less alone in the universe. Lena sat at her desk long after her work shift was over. The Xyler city outside was alive with soft blue lights, their floating spires rising like delicate glass trees. It was beautiful, but tonight she barely noticed. Her communicator blinked. Another message from Daniel. She opened it slowly, afraid of what she might feel, and there it was. A long letter, filled with small details of life back on Earth. He wrote about a sudden rainstorm and the smell of wet streets. He wrote about the neighbor's cat, who had started visiting him more often, curling up on his balcony like it owned the place. He wrote about music drifting from the streets at night, the same kind they used to listen to together. The words weren't grand or poetic. They were ordinary, but they carried warmth. As Lena read, her heart ached. For a moment she felt as though she was there again, sitting beside him, sharing those little moments of life. Tears welled up in her eyes. She pressed the back of her hand against them, whispering, Daniel, you don't even know what this means to me. The Xyler scientists she worked with were kind, but they didn't understand her silence when she missed home. They didn't know the weight of nostalgia, the ache of distance. To them, the stars were simply distances measured in numbers. To her, they were walls. She felt small in this vast galaxy, like a lone voice shouting into endless space. Sometimes she wondered if it was worth it. But then Daniel's letters arrived, steady, patient, unyielding. He wasn't solving the distance, but he wasn't letting it win either. That was so human. That was why she loved Earth, why she loved her people. They didn't stop reaching even when it hurt. Still, Lena hesitated. How could she answer him? Every time she started to write, she froze. Her heart was too full, her words too clumsy. What if she said too much? What if she scared him with how much she missed him? She looked at the stars outside again. They felt cold, far away. Yet she remembered something Daniel had written. Humans don't give up. Not on our dreams, not on each other. The stars may be wide, but they can't silence us. Those words echoed in her chest. She smiled faintly. If Daniel was brave enough to send his feelings across the dark, then she could be brave enough to send hers back. She picked up the communicator, her fingers trembling. Slowly, she began to type. Daniel, I read your stories, and they make me feel closer to home. The rain, the music, even the neighbor's cat, I can almost see them when you write. I didn't know simple words could carry so much warmth across so much distance. But they do. They remind me that I am not alone here, even when I feel like I am. Her throat tightened. She paused, then continued. I won't lie to you. Sometimes this world feels too strange. Sometimes I feel like I don't belong here, and I wonder why I came. But then I remember humans don't run from challenges. We step forward even when we're afraid. That's what you reminded me of. That's what you're showing me. Every time you write, you're giving me courage just by being stubborn enough to keep reaching for me." She stopped again, her heart pounding. Her next words came softer. "I don't know how to close this distance either, but maybe we don't need to know right now. Maybe it's enough that we keep trying, that we keep sending pieces of ourselves into the dark until one day the distance doesn't feel so impossible." Her hand hovered over the send button. She whispered, "This is what it means to be human." Then she pressed it. The message left her screen, flying into the stars. Lena leaned back in her chair, exhausted but lighter somehow. The ache was still there, but it wasn't hopeless anymore. Daniel's words had reminded her that hope could live even in the silence. That was humanity's gift, the refusal to surrender to distance or darkness. She looked out the window once more, her reflection shimmering faintly in the glass. Somewhere out there, Daniel was looking at his own sky. Maybe he was thinking of her at that very moment. She placed her hand against the glass and whispered, "We'll find a way, because that's what we do." And for the first time in weeks, she smiled without forcing it. Daniel sat by the window of his apartment, the night sky heavy with stars. He had almost given up waiting when the communicator blinked softly. His heart jumped. He rushed to the desk and opened the message. It was from Lena. Her words unfolded slowly across the screen, each line pulling him deeper. She had read his stories, and they made her feel closer to home. She admitted her loneliness, her fear, her longing. But she also spoke of courage, courage to keep trying, courage to face the strange world she lived in, courage that came from knowing he was reaching for her. By the time Daniel finished reading, his hands were shaking. His chest felt heavy, but not with sadness this time. With something else, relief, connection, hope. "She misses me," he whispered. "She really misses me." For days he had worried that his words were not enough, that his stories of rain, cats, and music were too small to matter across the stars. But Lena's message proved him wrong. Even small things could be bridges. Even ordinary words could carry warmth into the coldest distance. Daniel leaned back, staring at the ceiling. Yet the ache inside him remained. He wanted more. He wanted her voice, her laughter, her presence in the room beside him. Messages were candles, yes, but he wanted fire, and that was the hardest part. He didn't know how. He couldn't shrink light years. He couldn't bend time. He was just one man in one city on one planet. But then again, wasn't that what humans always were? Small, ordinary, yet still trying, still reaching, still finding ways to break barriers no one thought possible. Daniel remembered when he was a boy, lying on the grass with Lena, staring at the night sky. Back then, the stars seemed unreachable, and now she was living among them. Humanity had crossed that impossible distance. If they could do that, why couldn't he find a way to bridge the gap between two hearts? He stood and paced the room, restless. "There has to be more I can do," he muttered. "Something to make her feel me there. Something to remind her that distance doesn't erase us." But no answer came, only silence. Later that night, Daniel sat again at his desk. The communicator glowed faintly, waiting. He opened a new message, his fingers trembling. "Lena, I read your words, and they gave me more strength than I thought I had left. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me the truth. Thank you for letting me know I'm not alone in missing you. You said maybe we don't need to close the distance right now. Maybe you're right. But I still want to try. I don't know how, not yet, but humans have never been good at leaving impossible things alone. We always keep pushing. We always find a way." He paused, then kept writing. "Until then, I'll keep sending you pieces of my world. Not just stories, songs, drawings, anything that carries who I am. And maybe you can send me pieces of yours too. Let's build a bridge piece by piece until it feels strong enough to carry us across." Daniel looked at the words for a long moment. They weren't perfect, but they were honest. He pressed send. Afterward, he turned off the lights and sat by the window again. The stars shimmered faintly, distant and silent. But tonight they didn't feel so cold. He thought of Lena sitting on an alien world reading his words. He thought of her smiling, maybe even laughing, maybe placing her hand against a window just as he did now. It wasn't closeness, but it was something, and maybe that was enough. For now, Daniel whispered into the quiet, "We'll find a way." Humans always do. The words disappeared into the night, but he believed they would reach her somehow, because that was humanity's gift. Not strength, not brilliance, but the unshakable hope that no distance was too great if you kept reaching. Lena sat at her desk in her quarters on Xylar Prime, the glow of her communicator lighting her face. Daniel's latest message was open on the screen. She had read it 3 times already, and still her heart trembled with every line. Until then, I'll keep sending you pieces of my world, not just stories, songs, drawings, anything that carries who I am. And maybe you can send me pieces of yours too. Let's build a bridge piece by piece until it feels strong enough to carry us across. She pressed her hand against her chest, feeling the echo of his words. A bridge. The idea was so simple, yet it made her eyes sting with tears. But then came the ache of doubt. What could she send him? Earth was warm and familiar. Her new world was strange, filled with alien lights, alien food, alien skies. Would he even understand it? Or would her words make the distance feel bigger? She stood and walked to the wide window. Outside, Xylar Prime stretched endlessly. Towers of crystal floated on shimmering currents. The streets glowed with bioluminescent threads that moved like rivers of light. Above it all, 2 moons hung close together, their glow painting the city in silver and blue. It was breathtaking, and yet it felt lonely too. She whispered to the glass, "How can I send this to you, Daniel? How can I make you see what I see?" Her reflection stared back at her, tired, homesick, but still human. And then she remembered his words. Humans didn't stop reaching. Humans built bridges where none existed. If he could send her the sound of rain on his street, the sight of a stray cat, the music of home, then surely she could send him her world too, even if it was strange, even if it was imperfect. She sat back down and opened a new message. Her hands shook, but she began to write. "Daniel, your words about building a bridge stayed with me. I don't know if I can do it right, but I will try. Tonight I looked out at the Xylar city and wished I could show it to you. It is unlike anything on Earth. Towers that float in the air, streets that glow like rivers of fireflies, and moons so close together they feel like twin guardians watching over us. I don't always feel like I belong here, but when I think of sharing it with you, the distance feels less cruel." She stopped for a moment, chewing her lip. Then she typed more. "The Xylar have a word, Selthir. It means a light you carry from another. They believe everyone who travels far from home carries a piece of their world within them, and that piece keeps them alive. I think you are my Selthir, Daniel. You are the light I carry from Earth. When I feel lost, I remember your stories, and suddenly I feel like I can breathe again." Her fingers trembled. The words were so open, so vulnerable, but she knew they were true. She attached something small to the message, a simple sketch she had made of the Xylar moons. She wasn't an artist, but she hoped he would see what she saw when she looked at them: beauty, distance, and a promise that even the farthest lights could shine together. When she pressed send, she exhaled shakily. Later, lying on her bed, Lena stared at the ceiling. The ache in her heart was still there, but now it felt different. Not just pain, hope. Daniel's idea of building a bridge wasn't just words anymore. She had taken the first step. She had given him a piece of her world, just as he had given her pieces of his. The distance was still vast. The silence between them was still long. But humans were not creatures who surrendered to silence. They reached, they built, they believed. Lena smiled softly in the dark. "Piece by piece," she whispered, and she believed that one day their bridge would be strong enough to carry them across the stars. Daniel woke to the familiar buzz of his communicator. The screen glowed softly in the darkness of his room. He rubbed his eyes, half asleep, but when he saw Lena's name, his heart leaped. He sat up instantly, as if the message itself had pulled him awake. With trembling hands, he opened it. Her words filled the room, each line carrying her voice across the stars. She told him about the glowing rivers of Xylar Prime, the towers that floated in the sky, the moons that hung like twin guardians. She shared her loneliness and her hope, and then he read the line that made his breath catch. "I think you are my Selthir, Daniel. You are the light I carry from Earth. When I feel lost, I remember your stories, and suddenly I feel like I can breathe again." Daniel pressed a hand against his chest, his throat tight. Tears blurred his vision. For so long, he had feared that distance was a slow eraser, wiping away the colors of what they once had. But here it was, proof that the bond had not faded, proof that she still carried him with her. He clicked the attachment, and her sketch appeared on the screen. 2 moons drawn in soft strokes close together in the dark. It was simple, imperfect, but it carried her hand, her eyes, her soul. He traced the image with his finger as if he could touch the world she saw. "Lena," he whispered into the empty room. "I see it. I see you." For the first time in months, he didn't feel powerless. The sadness was still there, but it was not heavy anymore. It was like a tide receding, leaving hope in its wake. Daniel opened a new message, his hands steady now. "Lena, I read your words again and again. Selthir, I never knew such a word could exist, but now I feel it too. You are my light as well. Even across all this distance, you keep me alive. I thought I was losing you to silence, but your message reminded me. Distance cannot erase us. Not when we keep reaching." He paused, thinking of what to give her. Something of Earth, something of himself. Then he smiled. He grabbed his old guitar from the corner of the room, the one he hadn't touched in months. His fingers brushed the strings, rusty but eager. Slowly he played a melody he used to strum when Lena was still near, sitting by his side, laughing at his mistakes. He recorded it, imperfections and all. When the song ended, he whispered into the recording, "This is the sound of home, Lena. It's yours. Always." He attached the file to the message and added more words. "I cannot walk your glowing streets. I cannot see your twin moons. But when you send me your world and I send you mine, we are together. Piece by piece, we are building something stronger than distance. A bridge that no stars can break." And finally he wrote, "One day, Lena, we will cross that bridge. Until then, I am with you. Always." He pressed send, his chest rising with a long, steady breath. Later that night, Daniel sat by the window, watching the rain fall on the street below. Drops tapped gently against the glass, the same sound he had sent her weeks ago. Only now it didn't feel like something fading into silence. It felt like a song, part of a bridge stretching across the stars. He imagined her under her alien moons, holding his song in her hands, hearing his voice. Two people in two different worlds, yet not alone. Because humans didn't stop. They reached, even when the distance was endless. They believed, even when hope was fragile. They carried each other's light through darkness. Daniel smiled softly. "We'll make it," he whispered into the rain. "We always do." And in his heart he knew their bridge was already strong enough to hold.